custody of your kids, but why did you, how is that possible? I mean, were you working, not working, or how? What was the ruling for that? How did that happen?
In my personal situation?
Mm-hmm.
In my personal situation, it was filed for divorce when my son was 4.
Okay.
And I was given custody, and my ex-husband tried to challenge it a couple years later, and I maintained physical custody. There's something called physical custody and legal custody.
Right.
So I had physical custody, and we shared joint legal custody, and he had visitation. He didn't really initially want. He never took care of my son. He loved my son, and he needed to be a part of his family, but at 4 years old, he didn't want to be bothered. And then later, as he got older, he came back. So then what happened is for 13 years, I had physical custody of my son, and he had liberal visitation, and we shared what you call joint custody as far as making decisions about school or medical, things like that. And then he came back again in the court and challenged and accused me of suddenly changing. Not that anything had changed, but this was just a way that husbands and wives and parents sometimes, if their attorneys want to be litigants, and they tell them if we accuse her of changing and that it's no longer in the best interest of the child to live with her, we'll just accuse her of a lot of things that with no proof, which people can do in court. So they accused me of being physically and emotionally abusive to my son. And I took it to an attorney, and I showed it to him along with pictures and school records and medical records. And the attorney said, "Have you ever been Child Protective Services involved?" And I said, "No." He said, "Has the school ever complained that he was hurt or anything?" And I said, "No." He said, "Have the doctors ever complained?" And I said, "No." And then my ex-husband accused me of drinking more, which he wasn't even around. And he always drank a lot, so I guess one glass of wine is drinking a lot to him. So he accused me that I also, in these papers, was now drinking more.
Oh, great.
And so my attorney said, "Do you have any DUIs?" And I said, "No, never." So we filed a counter-complaint saying I never did any of these things, and I love my son, and he has now been convincing my son to move in with him and buying him things and doing things. And we went to court, and they take you into a back room, the friend of the court counselor, Rodney Yaker, and the referee for Judge Lisa Gorcyca, Cronin was his name. And my attorney said, "Well, we need an evidentiary hearing to prove this." And instead, the short story is they looked at us, the referee and the counselor, and said, "No, we're denying your request for an evidentiary hearing, and we are just taking custody away from you right now and just stopping child support, and there's nothing you can do about it."
Oh, man.
And I said, "I have where are my constitutional rights? My attorney told me in the paperwork I have a right to come back and say something and have an evidentiary hearing." And then the court counselor referee said, "You don't have constitutional rights in family court."
Oh, wow. He told it. They got that on record. You got a tape of that saying that?
Well, they don't. They take you in the back room, and as far as I know, it's behind the recordings that are in the video. That's what the friend of the court does all the time. They come up and schedule to go in front of the judge.
I would get a video. I would have a video of that and give it to give it to the Attorney General's office and let them know about it. And then that what they can do, they can file a civil suit against this person, have this person out of office. You see, they can do that. Your Attorney General can do that. You know, that's part of. I have heard cases about that, and this happened in Washington State, where a judge in Washington State, where it was two gay couples, right? It was a fight over the child, and guess what? He said, none of your parents are none of you are fit to be parents. So therefore, it goes back to the mother, because the mother gave birth to the child. So none of you have the child. So it goes back to the mother, and it was under that was. Who was the Attorney General? That was Ron McKenna. Ron McKenna, our attorney, Washington State Attorney General, and he actually overruled the judge, and that judge got fired for making a false report because it was filed by the Attorney General's office. And so there's clout that you can actually do, and maybe your attorney can go about doing maybe a complaint to the Attorney General, let them know, hey, you know what, your civil rights have been violated. Maybe you can do that. Are you there? Susan, are you there? Uh-oh.